Hey everybody, you're listening to the Katana podcast, and this episode is dedicated to Monty Oum, who unfortunately passed away over the weekend. And like a lot of people, some of you who may come across this, and of course a ton of people who never will, I was a huge fan of Monty Oum, and you know, it really sucks that he passed away. Like normally, of course, death is always really sad, but typically when it's someone very famous, I'm not too connected to that person. Like there are a couple of people, and Monty Oum is definitely one of those people because I've known his work from way back when he did first start, when he was doing like his little personal projects, like when he did Haloid, and when I found out about Dead Fantasy and stuff like that. And I've basically been following him ever since then. I've watched all the Dead Fantasy videos. When I was younger, it was like, God, checking all the freaking time. There was never anything, internet wise where it was like, is it out yet? Is it out yet? It was just Dead Fantasy. And I would check all the time. And, if you were like me and you were checking all the time, it drove you nuts that they came out, like every couple of months or something. But I loved them, and I would watch him over and over again. And I would watch his other videos like Haloid and the little Icarus video, which I wish that was longer. That's one of my favorites too, and it's only like a little minute long video. But all of his stuff, I watched all the little things he did, and when I found out about Ruby, I was really excited because it was like, this is going to be like a full on story. And initially, I thought it was just going to be another thing he was doing, a lot like Dead Fantasy, but when it came out, I had no idea it was going to be like this actual full-fledged series where with real characters like the Dead Fantasy thing. If you watched it did build up a story. Like there was no actual dialogue until I think like the episode before the last one that he actually created for that. But it was cool. Like it started to build a story and characters showed emotions, and it wasn't just fighting anymore. And that's what I thought that's what I thought Ruby was going to be. And then it came out and it was so much more than that. And the same thing with Dead Fantasy. Ruby was like, I love this thing, and it became a huge part of my life. It's one of my favorite shows. Like I just love it. Like it's just one of those things. Like there's no other show, period, where it's like if I just have free time, if I'm like at work or whatever, and I just have nothing I can do, and I have like a bunch of videos on my laptop, it's like, well, I could watch this, but I'd rather watch Ruby. Like I'd watch a bunch of episodes, or if a new episode came out, I would watch that episode like 3 or 4 times, maybe 5 or 6 times, just in a couple of days before the episode, the next episode came out within the next week. And right now, I'm just going through like all the episodes. I have like the first one playing right now, and I just love this show. Like it's an amazing show. It's well written, and I know that Monty isn't the only writer on the series, but he was, of course, the creator, and he was the one who came up with these ideas and all these different amazing concepts. And of course, it's just an unbelievable series, and it was really sad to hear that he had passed away from me. And like I said, I'm typically not really caught up with like celebrity deaths or anything, but he was one of those people, like I mentioned, where it really affected me. And oddly enough, I didn't expect it, but I was thinking about it later on about the show and really how long I really loved the work that he'd done, because I would always talk to people about Dead Fantasy. Like, have you ever heard of Dead Fantasy before? Or if people were fans of Ruby, I'd be like, okay, Ruby, check out his older stuff, because I would always tell people like like one of the things he did in Ruby, he kind of transitioned from Dead Fantasy because he stopped that series, but he liked what he did, so he brought it over to Ruby to make it like a full thing. And so I'd always tell people like, hey, check out Dead Fantasy, check out some of his older stuff. It's all really amazing. You can see kind of how he started with, less storytelling, but still unbelievable, awesome action and stuff like that. So I would always tell people, check out Monty Oum, because he does really cool work. Or Monty Oum, I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, but that's just how I've always said it. But I've loved his work, and it did really upset me. It did actually make me cry, which really surprised me. I didn't expect that at all. And it was just weird. Like just thinking about it, he was really one of those people who made such unbelievable things for me that I really, really love. Like I said, Ruby is without a doubt one of my favorite animated series, and it's just every year I'm so excited to see it. I'm so excited to speculate about it. Like this might happen. These characters might do this. They might be related in this way or that way. everything about it, I'm just excited. Like, even, just wondering what's gonna happen. I get really excited about the show. Of course, I was actually at a convention over the weekend, OhioCon, and I would see, cosplayers, and it's always like, oh, there's a Ruby cosplay, or there's Yang, there's Sun, and it's always just really cool to see that. Those are like always my favorites to see because I love Ruby that much. Even if there's, a better done cosplay, it's like, like it's not a Ruby cosplay, so it's not, it's just the show itself does so much that it's just like just seeing people cosplay as those characters makes me happy. Like, that's how much I love the show. It's just these characters are so cool to me. The work and the creation that he had or has, it's just so unbelievable that even when people just cosplay as these characters at random conventions, it's amazing to me. It actually matters. It actually makes the cons better to me because I just love these characters so much. And you go around, you see like Team Ruby and Juniper, Coffee, and well, maybe not Cardinal because they're douchebags, but you see the characters, and it's just really cool and it's really fun. And then it kind of makes you want to go back and watch the show. And you'll watch the show not just because of like, oh, the epic action scenes. You'll watch it because it has such great writing. It has great comedy. It has really emotional parts and good characters and good development. And of course, the music is unbelievable. I think, it has like some of the best music in like any series, period. Because it's just, there's just always some epic song happening, whether it's in a fight or it's not in a fight. Something great is going down. And it's just really sad that a guy who made such amazing things and affected so many people, whether he, knew it or not, of course, he never knew me, I never knew him. And, it's like that with, I'm sure, a lot of fans. It still impacts our lives, though, and it was such a big deal, and it really, like for a lot of people, of course, because I looked online, of course, and odds are if you're watching this, you've already seen some of the other videos as well. But I've looked online, I've seen some of the other videos, the tributes to him, and, people saying how he affected them or inspired them and things like that, and it's true. Like, that's what he did. He made such amazing things, whether it was just the action-based stuff, it was like, Dead Fantasy or, the Haloid and things like that, or it was Ruby, which, I think is really one of the biggest things out there right now in the sort of anime community. And, it has such, his death has such a huge impact right now because of the popularity of Ruby. And, I'm sure there are, like I said, of course, a ton of people who will never come across this who are just as affected as, you and I are. And it's just really crazy to think about losing this guy who had such insane visions where it's like, man, if I could make something like 2%, 2% is awesome as one episode of Ruby, I would feel like accomplished with my entire life because it's such unbelievable work. And, we're only entering season 3, and I don't know how Ruby's going to continue, and I really hope it does. I'm sure they will, not just to honor him, but to keep a series going that is truly important to a lot of different people. It's not just that it was his creation, and that's the only thing that matters. It does matter to people like me. I love this show. I want to, I want to live with the characters inside of the series. I want to see them grow. I want to see them develop like I have, over the past year, or past 2 years, really. And, I don't know how it's going to go, but I do hope it continues. And I'm sure if it does, it will continue very well and they'll do a great job. And, another thing that really hit me, and I guess this is because I do like this stuff on my, my YouTube channel, and it's on a much, much smaller scale. But having someone pass away and that they had this really big vision and they weren't able to complete it, I always find that kind of sad. And like, like I said, I guess it's from a creative standpoint, it always really hits me. And I've seen that happen before, and there's an anime, Kaze no Stigma, and this is a fairly old anime, and it was a great, great series, and I watched it, and unfortunately, it only got, I think maybe 12 or so episodes, and the manga never finished either because the creator passed away. And it was an amazing series. There was, it didn't go for that long, but it was unbelievable. It was like, I don't know, there are tons of great questions happening. The characters were really cool. The action was great. Just all these sort of, mysteries, and how does this person do that, although these rules have been set. And, it was just a great, great series. And it was, the same type of thing. Like, I would love for this series to continue, but the the creator passed away and that series was canceled. And like I said, I do hope that Ruby does continue. But it's that same sort of thing when someone who has this giant vision does pass away before it's completed. It it really hits me like from a creative standpoint. Like it really sucks to not, especially when you have the vision going. It's not just like, oh, I wish I was able to put it out there, or I wish this person was able to do something with it. But he was kind of living out his dream, and unfortunately he didn't get to see it completed, and he didn't get to take it to the really really big heights that I'm sure he wanted to take it to. And that's it's very upsetting. It sucks to see, to have this happen, and he won't be able to enjoy all the fans just going insane over all the new music, and going insane over super epic characters, and cool plot lines, and all the shippings and all the silliness and seriousness, no matter what it was. He won't be able to see that and experience that anymore, and we won't really be able to tell him that, as fans, or him specifically at least. And that's just really unfortunate. And he was, like I said, a huge influence as far as what I liked in action and animation. And I do hope that Ruby does continue. Whether it does or doesn't, I'm still gonna love this series. Of course, I will be watching the episodes for a long time, no matter whether or not the series continues. It doesn't really matter. But I wanted to dedicate this episode to Monty Oum. I know it's only like an 11-minute thing, but the point is just to say something about this guy who, like I said, I never met, but he had a huge influence on my life because I love the show. I was so excited to get into this show, and when I first watched it, I was like a little bit behind, so it's like, all right, I'm gonna catch up. I watched all I think the first 3 episodes all together. I was like, this is really cool. And then that was when I started doing my reviews and stuff. It was fairly early on, so it was like, all right, I'm enjoying this and stuff. And then after a while, it was just like, man, this show is unbelievable, and I would go above and beyond for it. I think Ruby is the only show where I took the time out to make really big videos where it's like, this is a trailer analysis. It's like, those ridiculously 15-minute long videos for a trailer, or like the opening, which is a minute and a half long for season 2. I did like a 30-minute video on that or something stupid. And it was like all speculations, and we're seeing this character, we're seeing that, and these people fight, we see this, this character in this location. And I took the time because I love this show that much that I would take the time just to analyze a trailer. And, that says a lot. That shows in one aspect how incredibly nerdy I am. But in another, it shows how unbelievably amazing this creative work really is, and how big of an impact like one person, and even, a group of people, everyone that worked on Ruby, can have on not just me, but of course the community as a whole, and everyone who loves Ruby, and of course everyone who loved Red versus Blue, because I wasn't too much into that, and I knew he did his work on that. I just never got into that show even before he did the work. So I've seen some of the episodes that he did, and of course they were amazing. All the action is just, I was like, man, I once again, 2%. If I could do like 0.5% of any cool action he did, it would be like the greatest thing I'd ever done in my life. So just had to do this episode, and really dedicated to a guy who did a lot to influence just my nerdiness, and how I really want to be able to make cool things and really get my vision out there. And it shows that you can have an expansive idea. He showed that you can have just great action, but develop great story, from that, and go places, showing that you have skills here, and then you develop even more skill over time, and then you have one of the greatest things, in my opinion, one of the greatest animated series ever put on the internet. And of course, you guys can let me know what you guys think of Monty Oum. Of course, I'm sure if you're coming across this, like I said, you've already seen some of the videos, you've already been affected by it, you've had time to process, maybe not completely, but you've thought about it, and you are thinking about how it might affect things in the future for you, whether it's with Ruby or Red versus Blue, or just in general, knowing that he unfortunately won't be around anymore, and he made such unbelievably great things. But I would like to thank you all for listening to this, And of course, if you haven't seen anything that Monty Oum has done, or if you never gave Ruby a chance, or you never knew about Dead Fantasy or Haloid or the Icarus video, and he even has a couple other videos. He did like a cool little series where it was kind of like Final Fantasy, and it had like the text bubbles and everything like that. That was a cool video, I remember. Check out all those videos. Check out the stuff from Red versus Blue, and just check out anything of his that you haven't seen already, because he's definitely done some amazing stuff. Of course, condolences out to his family, friends, I'm sure everyone at Rooster Teeth right now. Um, and of course, even to the fans, people like myself who just are going to miss this guy because he did some crazy cool things. He made some, insanely awesome action. He made some really cool characters that, we love to quote because we're just a bunch of nerds, but definitely check out his stuff. And of course, thanks for listening.